So I want to talk about what's happening in sexuality in college among heterosexuals. I want to give a descriptive portrait of what's happening these days in the what I call the hooking up culture, and also what's happening with relationships, and show how patterns are still gendered. So let me tell you what data I'm basing this on. First of all, I've been collecting some qualitative data at Stanford University, where I teach, interviews of undergrads by undergrads, and I've also been doing focus groups in a class I teach on sex and love. And then I'm using quantitative data from an online survey of undergraduates. I now have about 18 public and private universities that the data are coming from, so I have a pretty big sample. And today I'll limit things to heterosexuals. So in the online survey, I asked about characteristics of people's most recent hookup and about characteristics of the most recent relationship that they had been in, and said for them to limit that to a relationship that lasted at least 6 months. Now, what do they mean when they say hookup? What the survey said was use whatever definition of hookup you and your friends use. And then I also asked about, have you been in a relationship of at least 6 months while you were in college? And then I asked about the last time you and your partner did something beyond just kissing. So I'm calling that the most recent sexual event in this relationship. So you'll see reference to these results from these questions. So first of all, what do they mean by a hookup? That is, what is sexually happening on what students call hookups? So this graph is telling you men's and women's reports of what they did on the most recent hookup. Now, I should explain how I'm categorizing things here. I have sort of a, if you'll forgive me, base system, as we used to say. That is, suppose that in my hookup, I made out with the guy and there was hand genital stimulation and we had oral sex, but we didn't have intercourse. So I'm going to appear in the oral sex bar. In other words, you're classified by, on this hierarchy from left to right, the highest, not implying any value judgment, the highest thing you did. So what you see here is that, you know, if you wondered, does hookup always imply they had sexual intercourse? No. Somewhere about 30–40% of hookups involve intercourse. A quarter to a third only involve sort of making out and some touching and nothing genital. And then you have these categories in between. I'll